Alright, we need to start this off good. Here's a kitty!
For sure, if we fade, then it's a lie. But you know we are the sun, and we'll
This is Lost Thoughts for episode 5 entitled Lighthouse. This week we'll try to figure out what the heck is in Claire's cradle, discover the consequences of lying to a samurai, and count how many years of bad luck Jack just got handed. This was a week of answers. This was a week of shock. This was a week of people rewinding and pausing to see what names were written on that wheel. This was a good week. We start out in the Boom world, where Jack still has that appendix scar from the surgery that Juliet performed in season 4. Jack is looking at it like he's never seen it before. I mean, who the heck is not going to notice a large scar on their stomach that's been there for decades? He even has to ask his mom when it happened. And she doesn't know, maybe 7 or 8, and Jack just says, well, I guess I remember. Are they subtly dropping hints that the Dud world and the Boom world are kind of crossing over into each other? Or are these just residual memories from the 3 years spent from the crash till the boom? Jack drives to his school to pick up his son, David Shepherd. Now, this name is not a chance happening. The show has used many names from the Bible, portraying certain storylines and implying certain characteristics. David was the future king of Israel who slayed the giant Goliath. His importance in the Bible and how certain events transpired are unparalleled, bar the significance of Jesus himself. What does this mean for Jack's son? Who knows? Back in the Dud world, and we find Miles and Hurley playing to a tic-tac-toe tie. Hurley goes in search of a kitchen, and he runs into Jacob again. And of course, Jacob needs him to do something. You should probably get a pen. You're gonna have to write a few things down. Who is coming to the island, and why do they need help finding it? Boom world, where we find out that David has a copy of the annotated Alice, one of many Alice in Wonderland references in Lost. Jack even mentions the 2 kittens from Through the Looking Glass and what Alice found there. These kittens are descended from the original Dinah, one being black and one being white. Alice apparently blamed the black one for all the misfortune that happened in the book, and the white one was considered to be pure. Number one question that crosses my mind, who is the mother of David? Is it Jack's ex-wife Sarah from the other timeline? Or someone else? Juliet. Dud world, and man, Jin's leg looks messed up. Maybe it'll heal quicker on the island. Wow, Jin just really nonchalantly passed out. I'm just looking because I'm a big fan of temples and history and Indiana Jones stuff. Fantastic! Now, Jacob talking to Hurley is kind of creepy. Awesome, but creepy. Yeah, but you know what? Hurley is quite amusing when he has some authority. You know, Dogan apparently said something along the lines of, it's a good thing that Hurley has protection or else he'd slit his throat. I just lied to a samurai. This episode is a Hurley one-liner bonanza. He's one of the best constructed characters ever. You have what it takes. Remember that Jack's dad said that he himself had what it takes, but Jack didn't. Still in Dead World? Jin is still injured. What the heck is in Claire's cradle? Looks like a boar skull with a bunch of furs all over it, and all that baby stuff looks like it came from the Dharma medical hatch. I love that Claire is so matter-of-fact now. She has completely lost her mind, and she honestly believes that the others have Aaron. Really? One thing that will kill you around here is infection. You know that word usage of the word infection is so important. She says that she's not by herself, and even though we find out who her friend is later, you gotta believe that she's 2 Fruit Loops short. The other, Justin, says that Claire, given the chance, will kill them, which begs the question, how many of the others has Claire taken out? And of course, Jack and Hurley run into Kate. Why? But Hurley, once again, is awesome because he says that Kate is not invited. Yes! David is terrified of Jack, just like Jack was terrified of his own father. And just like Jack and his grandfather Ray, Jack's dad and Daniel apparently had a close relationship. At least that's what Jack's mom is implying when she said that David was distraught at the funeral. They found the will, and of course it mentions Claire. So this means regardless of the reality, Jack may or may not have met Claire. And it seems that regardless of whose episode it is, the first 5 episodes of this season seem to be focusing on the Jack Claire's storyline. Almost as if Aaron is more important than we think. Dud World, where we find out that Claire was told that the others had Aaron by her father and by her friend. Does this mean that Claire doesn't remember leaving Aaron in the jungle at the end of season 4? If that's true, then we can assume that Claire was healed in that pool of water, erasing her memory just like Ben and Saeed. And if that's true, then Claire must have met Christian Shepherd again after she escaped the temple, so he could have told her that the others had Aaron. And based on who Claire's friend is, we can assume that Christian Shepherd has been on a particular side of the black-white equation since the beginning. Thus, when Christian Shepherd told Locke that he had to die, that set into motion the chain of events that would allow the Man in Black/Flock to get Jacob killed. Based on something that Jacob says near the end of this episode, it leads me to my theory of the week. Stay tuned. The thing that I find interesting is that Claire left Aaron in the middle of the jungle, and now she'll do anything to get him back. When is the last time she saw her father on the island? Dud World, where Hurley is sorry for wrecking Jack's game with Kate. What game? Come on, Hurley. Join the Hate Kate Club. I think you'd make a great dad. Hurley is the MVP of this episode. Back at the caves. First time in a long time. Like, the beginning of season 2? And for the first time since the caves were first explored, we get to see Adam and Eve again. And just like any good storytelling technique, Hurley is theorizing as to who Adam and Eve actually are. One of the more popular theories that he talks about is the fact that they could time travel back in time and actually be Adam and Eve themselves. Remember when Hurley said that the radio signal that Saeed found on that little thing was from another time, but then he said he was just kidding because that would be crazy? Oh, little did he and we all know. And Jack confirms what we've all known, that his father's body was not in that coffin. Boom World with a bunny with a key below it. Believe it. I know this is probably totally random, but David had a poster of a band named Meatcoat in his room. Meatcoat was the band that Drive Shaft was supposed to open for on that tour that Charlie was trying to get his brother to go on right before the plane crashed. David can play classical music, specifically Chopin. Man, I really hope I didn't embarrass myself by mispronouncing that name. Dud World, where we get a very old school reference. You and me trekking through the jungle to do something we don't understand. Good times. I love the fact that Hurley and Jack are sharing all these unbelievable things that happen to them. It's about time that characters actually talked about what's happening on the island. Jack came back because he was broken and he thought that the island could fix him. Sadness. Wow. A lighthouse. How come we never saw that before? You know, I thought that like 2 seconds before Jack actually said it. Because we weren't looking for it. Really? They branded Claire just like they branded Saeed. All that really means is that she's been to the temple and they've been testing to see if she has this darkness inside of her. Jin says that Kate took Aaron. Claire is gonna kill Kate. My dreams are gonna come true. Holy crap, axe in the chest. Is this a running gag? People getting killed by getting hit with things in the chest? That's why Jack came with Hurley, because he had to kick the door down. Apparently, Hurley didn't know how to open a door. Back in the Boom World, but I just remembered that Jack can play the piano too. Remember, he played the piano with Sarah the night before their wedding? Ben, Jack, and Daniel Faraday could all play the piano. Speaking of Daniel, apparently he could play the exact same piece that David could. Fantasie Impromptu in C-sharp minor by Chopin. Apparently Daniel played the same piece when he was a boy. And that's Dogen in the Boom World. How the heck is this guy in the Boom World when the island's underwater? So Dogen must have been brought to the island in the Dud World, just like pretty much almost everyone else. 108 degrees on the lighthouse wheel, not a coincidence. Jack is seeing all these images on the lighthouse mirrors. Those are images that we've seen before on the show. And Jack sees these names written on the wheel, just like the names and the numbers that we saw in the caves. Originally, I assumed that by changing the degree on the lighthouse wheel would change something about the island. But then after thinking about it more with the names and the numbers, I think I have a better idea as to what the lighthouse actually is. The lighthouse allowed Jacob to see people off of the island. Each degree showed a different person, thus showing Jacob a different place where he could go to meet that person off the island at a pivotal moment in their lives. Then, when he met them, or got to know them, or whatever, etc., that is when he wrote their names on the wheel, and then on the cave walls. Or, he wrote their names on the cave walls, then the lighthouse wheel, then programmed the lighthouse to find them, then went to go meet them. Again, many questions. Again, many numbers with many names. You can see the best possible list of the names from the caves and the lighthouse at the link in the sidebar. But the big news of the numbers on the lighthouse wheel was that 51 was Austin. Some people like myself are trying to convince themselves that 51 actually meant Sam Austin and not Kate. The other big news was that the name next to the number 108 was Wallace. Who the heck is Wallace? Notice that the numbers and the names don't go past 360, and the wheel is a big circle. But this is more interesting because Jacob stated at the end of season 5 that it only ends once. Maybe this implies that the story is going to have an ending, but a circle is technically endless. It keeps looping and again and again. The thing to really consider about Jacob's comment about it having an end is that one of our two realities, Dud World or Boom World, either doesn't have an ending or has the exact same ending as the other. And Jack gets a little freaked out at the names and the numbers, and of course he starts destroying stuff. Where are we gonna buy new glass? Boom World, where David says that he didn't want Jack to see him fail. This show is all about parent issues, even in alternate timelines. But in the very least, we get to see Jack become a better parent. It's interesting to note that Jack apparently has a more fulfilled life in the Boom World than in the Dud World. Dud World, where Jacob apparently has to point out the obvious. You got ink on your forehead. Mission unaccomplished. Or is it? Jacob is sure that the person coming to the island will find another way. Really? He also says that Jack still has something to accomplish on the island. Sometimes you can't jump into the back of the cab and tell them what to do. Sometimes you just have to let them look at the ocean for a while. Once again, keep watching for my theory of the week. Ooh, Claire's got that look in her eye, like she's gonna chop you in the chest with an axe. Jin says the truth to save the other, but then he lies in order to save Kate. Stick to the truth. And Flock walks in. But no, it isn't John. This is her friend. Say what? I've already had some theories about the sequence of events that led to Claire being the new Rousseau on the island. But why doesn't it freak Claire out that her friend, who looks amazingly like John Locke, is not John Locke? I mean, maybe with this darkness inside of her, she doesn't actually see John. Maybe she sees him for his true self. Or maybe Flock has done something to gain her trust. Theory of the week, yo! I promise never to say it like that again. Jacob knows how the story will end. And because he knows the characters and what they will do in any situation, he knows what to do or what to say to get them to do what they're supposed to and point them in the right direction. Yes, Jacob has woven this tapestry, but people still have free will. And even though the man in black got Jacob killed, I like to think that this is all a part of Jacob's plan to have the best possible ending for everyone involved. It's all about what people need. Jack just needed a little bit more time for him to be right. He just needed some time to look out at the ocean. And based on the pilot episode, Jack is the ultimate main character and will quite possibly have the most important ending. This is why Matthew Fox has been one of the few who know what the last images of Lost will be this May. Message board chatter. Some people are comparing this lighthouse to the Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Today, that lighthouse is underwater in the Mediterranean Sea, just like the island is underwater in the Boom World. Lostpedia even says that the architecture of this lighthouse is similar to that of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. And of course, after Jack destroyed all those mirrors, people are picking up on the phrase, smoke and mirrors. Next week's episode is called Sundown. I'm assuming that someone has to make it somewhere before sundown, or someone is going to knock sun down. Trying to think of a good funny reference to the wheel in the lighthouse and Pat Sajak. You know, sometimes these jokes I want to make are not as clear as Black and Vanna White. Nailed it.